Join On the Sofa with Esther. She talks to Louis Prima Jr., entertainer, performer, singer, the son of Louis Prima, known as the King of Swingers. We are live. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, on the sofa with yours, truly Esther Austin. And I should start off by saying good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Well, today with me, maybe it might be morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, but I've got Louis Prima Jr. with me. Um, and I know that we're just going to have a swinging great.
Good morning, Miss Esther. How are you?
I am good. It's actually evening here. It's 7 o'clock in the evening. I'm in the UK.
That's right. We
Yeah.
are afternoon here. It's 1 o'clock where I am.
Okay. Well, I forgive,
Yeah.
but we're gonna have a good time anyway. So before I go any further, Louis, I usually like to ask my guests in a nutshell, in a peanut shell, or a coconut shell, who is Louis Prima Jr.?
I am a puppet, a poet, a pirate, a pauper, a pawn, and a king. People kind of laugh because when they find out everything I've done in my life, they're a little shocked. And the first thing out of somebody's mouth is always write a book. You've got so many adventures and so many things. But basically, I am a singer-songwriter. I am the son of a musical legend who has fought most of his life not to be his father at the same time that he's trying to be his father. It's I can't remember who said it. It just recently too. Somebody said the worst form of child abuse is junior at the end of your name, and it's it's a blessing, it's a curse. But I've rid high on it and had a blast. So that's me in a nutshell.
That nutshell, there's quite a bit that I want to unpeel from that as well as career and journey. I mean, your father was a phenomenal man. I feel he broke barriers. He made things happen, and it put him at the top of his league, if I put it that way. But let's just pull back about something that you said. When you spoke about having Junior after your name, it could sort of work either way for you. Can you just expand a little bit more on that?
So my manager likes to say this. If somebody does jump, jive, and wail, let's say Brian Setzer. Brian Setzer does jump, jive, and wail, and people stand up and applaud and scream. That was great.
Mhm.
If I do jump, jive, and wail, people may applaud, but somebody's going to go, "Well, he's not his father."
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Um, the other end of it is that I fight very hard to be my own person while I'm paying tribute. So there's a section that wants you to be Louis Prima, and there's a section that says, "Can't you do anything but Louis Prima?"
Yeah.
So there's a lot of plus and minuses. I could list 1,000.
Mm.
And you try to ride, at least for me, I try to ride somewhere in between because I do like to create and I do have my own style, which happens to lean on my father's style as well, but a little bit more modern. And you just try to blaze out on your own and cross your fingers and hope that people appreciate what you do in your own right. And I think my band and I have managed to do that to some level.
So, what is it that yourself? Because I totally get that because I interview a lot of sons and daughters of legends, and I speak about their father, but then I always honor them as an individual and artist in their own right.
Yes.
Because yes, you want to keep the legacy of your father or your mother alive, but then it's also how do you sort of carve out this niche, if I say that, for yourself
Mm-hmm.
individual with your own individual style that you might give a bit of essence and flair to, but you still hold true to who you are as well. So I understand that balance. And for you, Louis, being, I mean, I get a sense that as aside from being a band leader, a singer, jazz singer, you know, all those wonderful things and all the different sort of genres that you genres of music that you sort of mix and flow in between. Outside of that, there's this personality as well of who you are outside of the music,
Yeah,
but it also blends into the music. Does that make sense?
it does, and I will say that that's probably the one thing for sure that I did get from my father, besides being the spitting image. And it's funny because my youngest son looks more like my father than I do, in younger pictures of my father. But I do, there a lot of people will come up to me and say, you move like your father, etc. And I there is no concerted effort. I saw my father perform, all the way up until he got ill when I was about 9 years old. So I guess there's some kind of memory back there of what a performance should be. And there's things that I do. I'll see video of myself, and then I'll find a new video of my father's from Ed Sullivan or something, and I'll go, oh no, I do that. You go. Um, so a lot of times people will think I'm trying to emulate, but I'm really not. I take great joy in being on stage. Um, my favorite acts growing up were performers, as well, even into rock and roll. And when I started in rock and roll young, one of the, I think a bit of it is compensating for my perceived lack of talent, is that I make an overt effort to be the front man. And it's something I'm really good at. I think that being the front man, being the guy,
Mm.
and being able to put on that show, and know when to wave your arms and know when to back off and know when to dance and jump around. And my father was the king of that. So I do believe that, if there was something I got from him, that's what it was.
Mm. And being a front guy, I guess being the leader of the band, what does it do for you, Louis? Because from what I've seen, there's this, okay, with even though I'm at the front, I'm also part of. And then being part of means we're having this family party because yourself and the witnesses, there's this, I'm using some big words now. I was on Siri before I um but what I get with the energy of when you perform together is that we are in this together, and it's something that's it's something that's not just family, but it's community, fun, it's energy, it's just this whole expression of who we are at this moment in time. Is that making sense?
Well, I'm glad that comes across, because when I first started putting this band together in 2004. And it was a off the wall opportunity to get back into music, doing, trying to do my father's show. And the gentleman that managed me back then, I said, okay, let's do this, but I don't want a bunch of guys sitting behind a mic stand and a mic and a music stand reading a chart. I don't want to be the dancing monkey in front of this band of guys that are getting a paycheck. And don't get me wrong, for 6 years, I played in front of some of the best of those, some of the most talented people in the business. But it's different when you have a whole band that shares the mindset and wants the front of the stage and wants to entertain. And it was a 6 year, I don't want to say painstaking, but it was a 6 year search, one by one, finding the right guy for that spot, finding the right guy for that spot. As we got bigger budgets, it was add the guitar, bigger budgets, add the Barry sax, but it was finding people. And I've been fortunate through band changes that happen, naturally, because the road is not for everybody. I've been fortunate to have guys that really enjoy what they do. They're brilliant musicians, but they really enjoy it. So
Mm.
they're able to have fun. they're able to be loose and free with the show so that it does not feel structured to the crowd. And I was actually talking about this night before last night. We did a show in New York, and I had a substitute guy on guitar that did a fantastic job, and he was saying what a joy it was, and that it was neat to see a band leader allow other people in the band to shine, and one that knows how to step back and let this guy do his thing, and that it really seems like everybody's involved. And I said, well, everybody is involved. I've never experienced, when we're on the road in a tour bus, that's long hours with not a lot of room that you spend together. And we've always managed to have a great time, even when you're dead tired, sitting on the bus, going from point A to point B at 3 o'clock in the morning. We're laughing, we're having a good time, and we're enjoying each other's company. And I don't know if it's maturity or immaturity, but it does come off on stage, and it's something that's what I wanted. And it's one of those things where I went, wow, that's what I got. So it's truly a pleasure when you're doing it too.
Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a bit more meat on the bones now, Louis, so that people can
Okay.
understand, um, a bit more about your father and then a bit more about.
Uh-huh.
So I would say your genres that you cover, I've got jazz, traditional pop, swing, rock, and there's something I think about the swing because the way you guys move when you're performing, there's a lot of that energy throughout, if I may say so. Um, what is it about swing? And I know your father did swing, and that was a huge part because he was called the king of swingers, if I remember.
Yeah.
Um, but for you, out of the different genres, what is it about swing um, that is you, that captures you, that is part of what you're about? I know I've been a bit technical here.
No, that I got it. Look, when you go back to your childhood, and look, I'm 59, so I grew up with these cartoons, Looney Tunes and things like that. That those early cartoons, the early Disney cartoons, if you remember, all the cartoon characters did this as they walked, and
Yes.
they bounced around, and the music was always um, that's swing. If you listen to my father's early albums, he had some recordings from 1934 and 1935 that you could find out there. And I mean, there's some that I go, oh, wow, totally cartoon background music. But what it is, it's rooted in the street music of New Orleans with the same sound and vibe that raised Louis Jordan, Louis Armstrong, raised Louis Prima as well. And it's a joy in music. Music. I always make a joke, that not a joke, but when I describe music, to me, music is an escape. Music is supposed to make you happy. Back when the cavemen started banging on rocks, they were celebrating that they didn't get eaten by the dinosaur today. And that's music to me. And that was the music in New Orleans back at the turn of the century, the 1890s, 1900, 1910. My father was born in 1910, and he lived in the heart of the French Quarter. And I mean, the bands would ride around on the backs of horse-drawn carriages playing for people. And it was this joyous music that made you want to dance. And that's kind of where swing evolved out of, is it's this New Orleans, Dixieland. The shuffle is the way you walk. You shuffle along. My father, there's drummers that attribute him to the creation of the shuffle beat, and there's a lot of versions of the shuffle beat, the Purdy shuffle. My father's drummer Jimmy Vincent was the master of it. And I think what it does when you combine that with the proper use of a guitar and a really driving drummer and bass and a little bouncing piano, you get the feel of a train.
Mm.
If you listen to it, it's and it really does make you want to dance. It makes you want to tap your foot, and it makes you want to dance. I get such a kick out of watching people swing dance. It just looks like the funnest thing in the world to me because they're throwing each other around, and that to me is music and celebration. And I think my father, if my father helped create that. I don't want to know. I don't know if he created it because they were all part of it back then. Um, but he definitely created it and kept the fun in the music. There's a David Evanier, the writer, said that my father found a way to find the saddest songs and make fun of them and turn them upside down. If you listen to Just a Gigolo is a story about a French airman coming home after the war, and he's got to sell himself dance tickets in order to make money. It's this depressing song that my father turned into this rebel rousing, you know, brilliant song. But that's what swing does. That's what my father was brilliant at. And I like to believe that that was instilled in me because even back, I gave up rock and roll because grunge music happened, and I didn't want to be that. I wasn't that brooding or mad or angry at the world. I was, my music was happy and joyous and bouncy, and as it should be, and if you look across time and popular music, you're going to find that the people with the staying power are the people that were able to bring constant joy in their music.
Absolutely. And do you feel some of that joy or that desire to bring joy and turn things into joy might have come from his childhood? Because oftentimes, what we go through in life, it us influences or inspires us to bring that thread of whatever it is into our daily lives.
It absolutely does, and I think that whole era of music was bought on by that. When you look at the turn of the century New Orleans, the 1800s into the 1900s, especially the Sicilian immigrant. Um, New Orleans had the highest population outside of New York of Sicilian immigrants. So they were the immigrants of the country at the time. So there was a struggle to adapt and all the struggles that go along with that, as with any immigrant population into anywhere. You also add, the Great Depression in there. And there was just a need to celebrate. And the bluesmen of the South, when you're singing the blues, it's actually a celebration. And that, there's stories from my father. My father kept a diary, and his mother let him go out and experience it. When they were little kids, you're playing on your stoop and there was a band playing across the street all the time.
Yeah.
And street musicians and parades and all these things that went into New Orleans and the culture that um that was your upbringing. Music was your escape. There was no TV, there was barely radio, there was barely food on the table. I mean, my grandfather was an iceman. He carried around the ice to bring into your house. So there was music was your joy. Music was your escape. And my grandmother let my father go out and experience it and learn it. When he was 12 years old, she let him go on a ship to Cuba to play with a band.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
Oh,
um, so he got to see the world. He's writing in his diary about seeing these parrots and these exotic birds for the first time. And it's no other better way to describe it than just a joy, the joy that a baby has, when you look at a child. Um, and I think in his music, in our music, we bring that to people. I can see it from the stage. I can see it after the shows. And I know my father saw it for the 50 years that he performed. It's just a joy that you're able to bring people. And that essentially drives me to do this anyway.
yeah. So now a little bit more about you, and then I'm just going to dip into the I want to be like you, because when you were doing this, sort of, I could just hear I want to be like you.
Yep.
And it was funny because for Jungle Book, that was pivotal. Every time that came on, me and my sister would find ourselves,
Yep.
um. But for you now, Louis. Give us a bit of an insight into what you've been doing this year and also what's coming up for you.
So, let me just do the quick background on me is I started playing drums when I was 5 years old. I started playing piano in the second grade. My aunt was a nun here in New Orleans, and she taught me how to play piano. Um, I kind of self-taught myself the guitar, and when I got into the eighth grade and we moved back to Las Vegas, Nevada, I picked up the trumpet for the first time. Um, all through high school, I played drums and trumpet, and I tried to pick up on all these instruments, and I never really thought I was good. I never thought I was that great player, and
Why?
I've
Even for that, or it was just a you were
so
good.
the main reason why, and when I started going to college, I tested, and I'm severely clinically dyslexic. So
Oh,
there's a disconnect between music and what I want to do and what I can make it do.
okay.
Uh, I want to be brilliant. I want to be the Eddie Van Halen of whatever I touch. Um, and to me, I just didn't feel like I was that guy until a friend of mine pulled me up on stage. I was 18 years old, sneaking into rock clubs in Las Vegas, wasn't old enough to be there. And a friend of mine pulled me up on stage, and the first rock song I ever sang on stage was Aerosmith's Walk This Way. And I never had vocal training or anything, but I was the guy at parties and in the parking lot before school singing at the top of my lungs. I just thought it was fun. Um, and I don't know whether I'm a good singer or not. I sing in tune. Um, but when I got that microphone in my hand, I went, "Oh, this I can be good at.
Mm.
This I kind of know what to do." Because it's an odd cat that can get up there and expose all of it to the crowd and suck them in. So I had just enrolled in college, and I started college, and I started singing with other bands and doing some things. I very quickly just gave it all up, grew my hair, did rock and roll for 10 years, and I had a blast. I would not trade any bit of it in. I had a blast. Uh, Grunge started happening, and I just, we never got that elusive record deal. Um, Close, we got very close, but didn't happen, and grunge happened. And I'm a realist on top of it all, so I'm not going to sit there and starve longer than I have to. So I jumped into my other love, which is food and beverage. I've been in food and beverage on and off my whole life. Management, I love it. My first real job, I was a cook in an Italian restaurant when I was 15 years old. Um,
What's your
but
gum?
I always, yeah, but I always did music on the side. And like I said, I actually was in an AC/DC tribute band for quite a while as a singer. Um, and then this opportunity came up in 2004, and I, plowed my way through and found the musicians. And in 2010, I felt we were good enough to give it a go, um, and quit the day job and dedicated to this.
Mhm.
And a year later, at age 54, I got a record deal.
Wow.
And you go, wow, persistence pays off. I don't know. But I found a gentleman, Jim Irvin, who owns Warrior Records, who believed in us, believed in our ability to create music. Because when we first talked about putting my first album out, which was all covers of my father's, I wanted to get them out of the way. The first thing out of his mouth was, "Do you create?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I create, and I've got some brilliant people that I create with." And yeah, and he goes, "Well, because I don't want this album. I want number two. I want number three. I want number four. Let's move forward. It's a brilliant relationship. I love him to death." Um, and we plow forward. So, you know, boom, I had what I want. I had a brilliant band. I was able to make music. I have a record label that's putting it out to the world and supporting us. And things have been really good. And you build on it and you build on it. Look, music isn't easy. I step aside. I just saw an interesting article, and it was out of the UK. I can't remember exactly where, but the gentleman was citing um, bands in the top Billboard 100.
Mhm.
Back in 1980, there were 65 bands occupied the 100. In the 1990s, there was 45 bands in the top 100. Um, the past 4 years, I believe he said there were only 15 bands. Everybody else is an individual. So my guitar player, songwriting partner, looked up United States sales, and it's one band. So there's one band in music if you look at popular music. So we occupy this very strange space, and there's quite a few of us in there that are plowing, trying to make money and trying to get the gig and trying to make the budgets work on the road and things like that. And you got to sell yourself and sell yourself and sell yourself and work and work and work, and you got to stay on the road to sell the tickets, to sell the albums, to tell T-shirts, to make money. And the pandemic happens. When the pandemic happened, we have our third album that we had just recorded. I mean, literally got out of Capitol Records and the world shut down. When I drove to do some finishing vocals, some cleanups, it was like a week or two after recorded. I rode my motorcycle from Vegas to Los Angeles, and I was the only person on the road. It looked like some kind of future time. We had 220 dates that we were working on for gigs that year, which was probably going to be our most. That all went away. And then you start fighting to get back on the road, and all the powers that be that were during the pandemic and the rules and the guidelines. And then the Delta variant happens, and then you build back, and then the Omicron variant, and then you're building, and then the economy happened. So it's been, I don't like pulling punches. It's been 4 years now of a complete fight to be on the road. And we will continue to fight. The economy makes it very difficult right now. There's 12 of us on the road. That's 12 hotel rooms, 12 mouths to feed, 12 airfares. The gas prices in a bus, everything's tripled, quadrupled. And it's a fight. But we continue to fight, because every night that I get on stage, it's the happiest day of my life. Brilliant. And every night that I get on stage, the crowd reaction is the greatest feeling in the world. And as long as that's there, when that stops happening, I'll stop trying. But until then, we still fight. We still have an album to get out. And I have more faces to make smile.
Love that. Love that. And as you were talking, there's about, and yes, it's been challenging and difficult, and you mentioned the word fight several times, but then you come to your music and you come to your performances, and in that space, it's almost like that can dissipate everything that you've been going through. And it's almost like having this holding space where you get up on stage, going into that space of we enjoy, and it's not just for us, because obviously it's going to feed you guys every time you get up on stage and perform, but you're feeding the audience, and so there's this ebb and flow of energy, of joy. And because your fundamental thread, theme, go-to place is joy, that's what's going to pop. They talk about that intention, they talk about purpose, and I believe that's your purpose, to bring joy. There was what did you put? There was something that I pulled off that I wanted to. I think it's on your website where you say something about a smile. I wrote it down, but there was so much to go through. Oh, I can't find it, but because I've got so many notes, because usually I just dip in very briefly, but there was something quite poignant that stood out, and I think it was every day is to make you smile. You've got like a little quote on
There's a couple of them. One of them is making the world happy, one song at a time.
that.
There's, yeah, there's forgetting the world, making you smile for an hour and a half each, at a time, things like that, because I think that's um, the greatest joy. I really love when I get on stage and you can tell that you can literally see in their face the person that doesn't want to be there. And it's either a friend bought them, they don't know that they don't never heard the music, they don't think they're going to like it, or
Okay.
they're having the worst day of their life. You know what I mean? Um, and watching the transformation of that face through a show is magical. Um, I'm lying if I say we don't lose people during a show because people have forgotten what my father did. My father was loud, boisterous, and in your face in everything he did. I wish I could put this stuff out there, but they come after me with lawsuits. I have a Johnny Carson show where my father was going to be on Johnny Carson and essentially took over the show. And it was, I mean, instead of cutting away and going to other guests, they just kept playing and playing. And the jumping around and hooting and hollering and you go, you know, that's what we're doing. But I think people over time believe the lounge singer. Bill Murray did a thing on Saturday Night Live when he was on, where he was a lounge singer, and it was this toned down, "Hey, where you from?" type of. And I think that people forget that my father wasn't that. That it was this show, this in your face show that every artist came to see
Mm.
because they wanted to know how to do that. So we do get people when they come to our show. It's too loud, it's too boisterous, and you'll lose two or three. Very rarely, but it does happen. But for the most part, it's just this because we hit the ground running. I will hit you with 4 songs, 5 songs before we take a breath. And you get people after the show and the faces are lit up and they want to hug you and they want to thank you and they will tell you the story about what my father's music meant to their whoever and what a joy it was to see us doing this and moving it forward and moving the needle and um, that's that's where the joy is those faces, you know the people that will come up and cry after a show. And I'm going to tell you a story that'll choke me up. And it revolves around I want to be like you.
Okay.
Because I want to be like you, for those watching and listening, my father was King Louis in the cartoon Jungle Book. We all grew up on it,
Yes.
all of us. To this day, we're all growing up on it. I tell people it's the one song, and I had never done the song before I recorded it on our first album. Um, kind of on purpose because I wanted that song to mean more than just the monkey song, you know. Um, so we did a little version of it, and and I tell people it's the most recognizable song that we do. If I'm trying to convince somebody that they know what Louis Prima music is, if I say Jungle Book King Louis, I have yet to find somebody that says I don't know around the world. So I'm playing. This was very early on, right around 2010. I'm playing. It's the Gretna Heritage Music Festival in Gretna, Louisiana. It's across the river from New Orleans. It's 11 stages. I think the headliner that year was Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's huge. It's hundreds of thousands of people. It's beautiful. I get off stage. That actually, I think this was 2008. Um, so New Orleans is still very fresh after Katrina,
Mhm.
that devastated it. And I'm after every show, me and the whole band, we all rush to the front of a venue because we want to meet everybody and give them a chance to say hi. So I'm standing off to a side, and there's a line of people coming up to see me, and I keep looking over to the corner, and I see it's a little old African American woman and a middle-aged woman and like a 7-year-old, 8-year-old kid. And they're standing there just off to the side. They're not in line and they're just staring. And I keep glancing over and the kid is smiling.
Mm.
So I stopped what I was doing and I called them over. And the mother told me that she had just moved back to New Orleans from Michigan. She had to run from the hurricane. They lost everything. House was underwater, gone. And she had to flee to Michigan. And this was their first day back. They were first weekend back in town, and they saw my name on a billboard. And the son pointed it out and said, "Let's go." And the reason why is because when she said to him, "Grab everything you want, we've got to go," the only thing he grabbed was Disney's Jungle Book.
Wow. Wow.
That's what music does to you, you know. And we've all got a song
Mm.
that means that. And as musicians, we can't forget that. We can't be so caught up in ourselves that we forget that. We're not up there for us. Yeah, we pay our bills, but we're up there for you. And I think there's not a lot of that in the music business right now.
And it's interesting. I mean, gosh, the time is sort of going because this, I'm quite I've been quite mesmerized. But there's something about what you've just said as well in terms of, when you have a craft, it's a craft, it's a gift, it's a craft, and you take it seriously. I would say a lot of the people that I've interviewed are the real old school classic legends and artists.
Yeah.
They have a sort of mindset, the show must go on, about being the best and the best that they can be. There's all these things that make them who they are. And I went to see, I was at the Royal Albert Hall last night to see the Sound of Philadelphia. They were celebrating 50 years. And so different artists who performed the songs that were written by Tom Bell, Leon Huff, and Kenny Gamble.
Right.
And just looking at the audience, you can see it was this place of nostalgia for them. I saw couples, they looked like they'd been together forever, but they were hugging, they were kissing. And so just what you said, being an artist, you're doing something that you love, and I believe that you're in purpose about, but also on a wider level, touching lives on different levels. So what that young man grabbed and brought with him, obviously symbolized something more than everything because that was all he took.
Yes.
And
You
so
know, it's and there's I've talked to people, whose father or mother is laying on their deathbed and not there, and they will play a Louis Prima song, and the person wakes up a little bit enough to say goodbye, and the people break down, and we can't forget that. It's it's an honor, it's a privilege. It's how many people get to do this? Number one. So when you get to do it, you got to realize the real purpose we're here is to making, my father said, play pretty for the people.
nice.
And that's what we're doing. We have to honor that, and we have to maintain, no matter what, worst day ever, you've got to get up on stage because it might be their worst day ever, and they paid money to be entertained, and we have to entertain. And it's a drive. It's hard work. It's a drive. I'll never say it's a chore, but it's, everything that goes involved. If people, I posted this a long time ago. I posted our schedule. We were doing like eight or 9 days in a row without a day off. And I just posted the schedule every day that we did something. I would post it, and people were like, "Oh my God, that's exhausting." And I go, "Yeah, it is. But when the light comes on and you see that face smile, all worth it." And we need to remember that, and the world needs to remember music and musicians, because it is, imagine the world without music. I'm talking about you know, elevators. There's music everywhere.
And for every emotion as well.
Yeah. If you watch a majority, a huge majority of movies, there's music playing constantly. Um, you know, everything that happens to me in the world, I can pop off a lyric that pertains to it, you know? Every memory, every good memory I have has a song behind it. And I think that's for everybody. And a world without music, I mean, that's a little sad. And I just personally, we are allowing people that can't make music to be our musicians. I mean, I I get my biggest joy. I moved back to New Orleans in 2020, and on every corner you can find somebody brilliant playing an instrument, and it's the greatest thing to me. And
But
I'll sit and watch them. Go
do you
ahead.
feel that I'm gonna extend this for another 10 minutes because
Oh,
I
if we go long, it doesn't matter.
the thing is with that, you said some key words there, Louis, about you used the word honoring, and isn't it that because you also understand the deeper meaning and essence of creating music, you understand maybe the vibrational meaning of it, you understand the emotional meaning and importance of what it does. Whereas maybe now, just saying maybe, I'm not saying it's for everyone, but maybe now there aren't those sort of deep-seated understanding, or maybe it's not really important. It's about making in whichever way, because how you're talking is the speak, I would say, of the old school legends, the real classic legends.
Yeah,
To them, it
it,
was
it there's a lot of that. Um, you don't want to say the starving musician, but that's the moniker.
mm,
Um, there's not a lot of money in this. There's you can count them on your hands year after year, the amount of people that really make it in
mm,
this business. This is truly not unlike art. My oldest son's an artist,
mm,
and it's not unlike art where you're sinking pieces of your soul into everything you do. So the money really doesn't matter. I mean, it's nice to be able to make a living at it, but you make music for so many more reasons.
mm,
You make music to get it out of yourself, whatever that emotion is. You make music to hide your emotions.
mm,
Um, you make music so other people can experience their emotions. You make music so other people can see life and escape whatever
very true. Yeah.
is holding them back. That's why you make music. When I look around the past decade, I don't think there's a lot of that going on. Um, the art of entertainment is kind of gone. You when you look at people, I mean, look at this. I'm going to mention names, get myself in trouble, but Taylor Swift is selling tickets for what, $2,000 a piece, and I'm not saying she's not a good singer. I'm not saying what I'm saying is it's her and this brilliant stage show. There's the lights and fire and things happening, and that's because you forgot how to entertain. And the show has to kind of be everything. I don't like going to see a guy sitting on a stool playing a guitar. That's not a show to me. The show is when you get off the stool and you can engage people. I think we've forgotten how to do that, but the crowd still wants that, so they will go see the show with the giant
Mm.
lights and big costumes and things like that. And it's just not music. I don't think it's honest. I don't think it's bringing out the emotions. I think it's dulling us. I think it's nullifying us.
But you just said something there. You said it's not bringing out the emotions, but then are people on that level? I'm just presenting, are people on that level of consciousness in terms of I want this to really speak into someone's life rather than I just wanted to draw a crowd. And also, I guess for people who are about the showmanship because there's showmanship and there's showmanship. It's a bit like I saw many years in Vegas, Little Anthony and the Imperials.
Oh yeah.
That was such a that for me that was showmanship in the other
Yeah.
sense. The moves, the way they dressed. It was this orchestration of everything, and he's just so funny. So all that was in the mix. Whereas maybe, and to this to you, maybe where we are now is that things have become so watered down that you know people can't really even understand what the level that you're talking about.
I believe that's a little bit of it, but I believe also that if people are exposed to it, they get it.
Mm.
Um, my son, they were 11 and 15 maybe, and they came to a festival I was playing, and the headliner was Earth, Wind, and Fire. And I don't know if you've ever seen Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Out, yeah.
And these are kids that are listening to rock and roll or whatever's out there, and they like Eminem and whatever. Um, and if you called him up right now and said, "What's the best concert you've ever seen?" he would say Earth, Wind, and Fire. So if they're exposed to it,
Yeah.
um, I think it's there, and I just wish the world allowed for more exposure of it. We're stuck in this headliner and these weird gimmick acts, and I don't want I get myself in trouble when I say things, but um, the postmodern jukeboxes of the world, and these the this little gimmick act and that little gimmick act, they're making a fortune and
Mm.
they're working all the time. And I think we've lost touch with the creators and the people that are really going to bring our emotions out. A show is great, don't get me wrong, but when I listen to music, and I still have a turntable. Yes, I still buy records. Yes,
Exactly.
I listen to current people as well.
Mhm.
Um, but when you touch that needle and just sit back and listen, that's what moves me. And fortunately, when you go to see them, you hope that they do it live. Some of them do, some of them don't. But they're creating and they're bringing out emotion, and that's what music is to me. And I've written 100 ballads, 100 million ballads, sad songs, sappy songs. I let the girls that sing with me, and I give them to other people because that's just not me.
Mhm.
Um, and I believe that that's where I am most like my father is. I just want the joy in it. Um, I feel like I'm living through him, and my greatest times was early in rock and roll and hanging out with these people and the people I've met and the camaraderie and the musicians um, and their creation. It's creative force, and we need to not forget that. I would challenge you out there in the world, go see a band. I don't care if they're awful. I was in St. Augustine, Florida. One of my best friends lives in Orlando, and I hadn't seen him in a while, so I was in Jacksonville. He's in Orlando, so we met in St. Augustine. Just it's very close, like 100 miles for each of us. It's a historic place in Florida, and they've got this old town that you can't drive a car down the streets because they were made for horses. And let's go find a bar and have a drink. And we ducked into this little bar, and there was just a little southern country rock band playing. Not my style of music, but man, were they tearing it up! It for 20 people in the room and having a blast. And we sat there for hours, just enjoying the band. So go find a band. You know, go find a band, connect with them, listen to their music, and smile when you're doing it.
But this has been an incredible conversation, and I'd love to have you on again because I feel there's just so much more that we could expand into. But
Absolutely.
winding down, Louis, what's coming up? I mean, we haven't got many months at the end of the year. And I'm sure this year you have sung joy into so many lives. So what do we have for the next few months before
So we do have, I'm going to be posting them over the next week or two. We do have several dates coming up the end of November and in December here in the States that we do like a Christmas show. It's not a huge production, but we do a lot of Christmas songs, some things that maybe other people aren't doing, and some of my father's Christmas musics, and a Christmas song that we did called "Hey Skinny Santa." It's on all the platforms. You can go find it. And we're still hoping to get that third album out. On the album, I actually get to do a duet with my father again. We did it on the second album. This time we did it a little bit further forth. So we did it with the song Pennies from Heaven,
Hmm.
that is TikTok famous right now and in the movie Elf. And I do a duet with my father. And by the end of the show, both bands are playing. It's brilliant. I don't know if we have permission to do it yet, but we did it. um, but and we're looking into next year. I just got a offer that we're trying to financially make work to come to the uh 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 good Lord, it's in Denmark, jazz festival that'll hopefully get us overseas again, to be able to pick up some dates because I've been dying to get back over there. It's been way too long.
Hmm.
And we're plowing ahead and hoping to reinvigorate. We hope that there's going to be a balancing of the world where the economy is going to come down and it's going to be more affordable for us to get back on the road like we used to, instead of doing nighters. But we move ahead. LouisPrimaJr.com, and follow my calendar. And as we get things, we'll post them up. And we hope to see everybody soon.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation with Louis Prima Jr. Take a look at his website. And I think there was a lot of, not I think, I know there was a lot of words of wisdom tonight. Very thoughtful. And these are the types of conversations I had today with my big brother from another mother, because he was just about, the different times and how things are being watered down. But, bands like you are keeping that alive. And that's what there are a lot of people out there still trying to keep that ethos alive. And
Yeah.
what does it really mean? What is it really about? And so we got to just say, keep going. That's Louis Prima. This is Louis Prima Jr. and the Witnesses, and looking forward to talking to you again. And thank you to Jim, and also thank you to, was it Ed as well? Ed Knight.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you to Jim Irvine and to Ed. Thank you both. And wishing you a wonderful week. Peace out.
Peace out. And I would love to do it again. Just get a hold of us and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and life.
Absolutely. And I see I would hope to do a live interview with you. I'll have to head on over to the States because I can just see
Oh,
my
there you go.
sitting on the sofa and just lounging with some gumbo and just having this conversation. Okay. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
thank you. Take care.
Thank you. You have a great day now.
Bye.